And so what happens in that 8-week class is, like I said, we've just scratched the surface of everything that helps to either address imposter syndrome or just help, I would say, build self-confidence. And to me, this has been life-changing and unlocking. I'm still learning and working through, and I keep going back to the tools because I recognize how much my self-doubt has held me back in my career, in my life, and learning and leaning into things that are scary. And I am a student alongside a practitioner around all of this. And so in the 8 weeks, we would first start with imposter syndrome, spending that first week building our container, having the introduction. So a little bit going a little bit more in depth to what we did on night one, and then going through the genogram. Weeks 2 and 3 will focus on transforming our triggers and stories and going through different imposter scenarios. So we touched on it a little bit in night two, but it's going much deeper and then reframing that self-perception and envisioning a different future. And so different tools that we have around that are looking at a statement of position map so you can understand in the greater context where your self-doubt lies. There's an expressive letter exercise that we do, an autobiography exercise, the thickening the narrative. I talked a little bit about that last night, but going from I'm not great at presentations to I am so much better than I was 12 months ago. And I took this class and it's making me even better because I've worked with a coach around my executive presence and presentation skills. So there's a whole series of identifying what your narratives are and starting to make them thicker. And then in weeks 4 and 5, two parts. So internalizing success, a lot of the self-doubt is we forget all of the things that we have done and survived and thrived in that got us to the place we are today. So uncovering our hidden talents and our hidden accomplishments, and then have a broader understanding of all of our strengths. And doing that, I use a hidden accomplishments exercise. We continue to go deeper into the ants and we'll provide more guidance on each of your individual ants. And then also using the multiple intelligences model and really expanding beyond what a lot of people see as their intelligence and their genius and recognizing that there's many more out there. Week 6, we focus on self-care and burnout and boundaries. Folks that have self-doubt, a lot of times, as we talked about, overwork or do things that put others ahead of themselves. And we'll assess burnout and then establish micro habits for sustainable self-care and mindfulness. And so a lot of times where people talk about self-care on social media about like toxic self-care, this isn't, I'm going to go to the spa and I'm going to go to Bali and meditate for 12 weeks. This is what are micro habits that you do every day that help pour into you and make sure that you can sustain everything that you're trying to do in your life. And that provides that balance. So we will look at different burnout measures, working on a schedule of pleasant events in your life, putting in a self-care structure and identifying those things that are truly nourishing to you, that don't require money, that don't require a lot of time, but are things that you can do on a daily and weekly basis. Week 7, we'll talk about roles and inflexibility and imposter syndrome. So generally, there are 5 sort of rigid roles in those who have self-doubt, and there's more flexible ways to be and more growth-oriented ways to be. So we will spend time figuring out what imposter roles we each tend to take on and what we do those because we're getting some sort of benefit out of it, but there's also a cost. So analyzing that and then working on what could be a new role expansion. And then lastly, on the last week, talking about how do we create and cultivate supportive relationships for growth. My goal as a coach is to give you as much support as you need so that you can do this on your own. And so we talk about assessing dream team needs and who is on your dream team, and that there are 6 or 7 different roles and identifying 2 or 3 people for those roles. And then also creating coping cards. And these coping cards we do after each section, but they help remind you and give you a physical anchor for all of the work that we did. So that is what would be included in the 8-week class that I'm starting next week. Those classes I know Wednesday nights, we're all really busy and those would be recorded. So if you had to miss a session, you would always be able to catch up and really just spending some time to deepen the work that we've started to do here. Because as you can see, there's a lot more that really goes into working towards through self-doubt. I really think like this is something that as we as women, in terms of propelling ourselves, having that opportunity to quiet our doubt and really step into who we fully are. And so because of that, I am offering it at 897, which is taking $600 off before I release it to the public later this week.